Hello. What you are viewing is known as the LUE Map, L-U-E, El Oro Iraca Intreri, which was first introduced to the public by Karl Von Mueller, whose real name was Dean Miller, in the 1966 Gold Bug edition of the Treasure Hunter's Manual No. 7. The LUE is not a treasure map per se, but a waybill, a bill of lading. I will describe my solution to the LUE as quickly and briefly as possible, and describe a few of my speculations as to how, who, and why the gold hoard was hidden and cached in one specific location based on the directions and measurements shown on the waybill. Since 1966, when the LUE map or waybill was published, treasure hunters have sought to decipher the LUE waybill, but none have succeeded, including Karl Von Mueller. I am not a treasure hunter hobbyist, nor collector like most others who've come across the LUE. I stumbled upon it quite by accident a few years ago and solved it in just a few weeks. I solved it quickly perhaps because I had no preconceived notions as to what it was, its location, and what others like Karl Von Mueller wrote about it. In actuality, this version of the LUE waybill is the version published in the January-February 1970 issue of True Treasure magazine, with Tom Hilton's article describing his hunt for the LUE. I've added the two black dots to the LUE waybill, which appear in other versions published by Karl Von Mueller. Note the two dots within the football-shaped measurement. Many people construe that as an all-seeing eye. I will show you that that isn't necessarily the case. First, the LUE is a waybill. It's not a map per se. Here's the Wikipedia definition of a waybill, which is a document issued by a carrier giving details and instructions relating to the shipment of a consignment of goods. Typically will show the names of the consignor and consignee, but most importantly the point of origin of the consignment, its destination, and the route. Now, based on my findings, LUE is drawn by two people. The person consigned as the carrier to one location, and a person whom drew the topological measurements and distances as an overlay on the waybill. Now, the only clue Karl Von Mueller published with the LUE is written in the caption when viewed in landscape perspective, which reads, "The incredible LUE treasure, which will perplex treasure hunters for years to come. Only two people have been able to decipher it, and they will never carry away all of the incredible treasures that are revealed by the map. Others will seek, and a few will find, and the trovers will be committed to eternal secrecy when they learn the cryptic and Shubloth hoard of all hoards on the American continent. True sign experts will find the ultimate in challenges in this key to a natural Fort Knox, redrawn exactly from the IATAAYAM key. Let's go forward." A few important clues stuck me when reading Karl Von Mueller's caption for the first time. First, only two people have been able to decipher it. I believe that's a misnomer. I think there were two people that knew exactly what they were doing. One was the person that flew the consignment of gold or the gold hoard, and one person that was there on arrival that took it. In addition, I believe that person was involved with the topological layout of the cache sites. Second, the word trover. Trover is a form of lawsuit in common law countries for recovery of damages for wrongful taking of personal property. Trover belongs to a series of remedies for such wrongful taking, its distinctive feature being recovery only for the value of whatever was taken, not for the recovery of the property itself. That is important, I believe, and I'll address that at the end when we discuss how the gold was taken or stolen, and also any remedies that people whose property was taken are rectified, so to speak. In short, the term trover implies that the gold attributed to the LUE was stolen. Now, the word Shubloth is a Hebrew word attributed to the use of passwords for self-identification, signaling loyalty and affinity, maintaining traditional segregation, or protecting from real or perceived threats. It is specifically attributed to an incident described in the Bible in Judges 12:6, where the word Shebeloth was mispronounced as a password. Does the word Shebeloth imply the LUE is associated with a secret society, like the Masons, the Knights Templar, or a secret cabal? We'll examine that possibility as we move along. Shebeloth is also described a torrent or a flood. Now, in Karl Von Mueller's context, you can see they will learn the cryptic and Shebeloth horde. So it seems it has to do with the password definition of the word rather than a flood of gold or a torrent of gold. The third clue is it's a natural Fort Knox, which implies it is hidden, guarded in a vault or underground fortress. Fourth, it was redrawn exactly from the IATAYAM key. So it's a redraw. And there was a key. Now I believe the caption is a clue as to who may have assembled and moved the cache, whereas the waybill itself describes directional measurements in one cache location, not many locations or several locations, as others have speculated. In addition, the IATAYAM key has been attributed to the term I am yours and you are mine, which is associated to God. So there may be some religious overtones as well. Was it the Knights Templar associated with the papacy? Was it the Masons, the Freemasons? We'll go through each of those elements, or maybe even a secret cabal. We'll find that out. So then, let's move beyond Karl Von Mueller's caption and decipher the LUE piece by piece. The most prominent element drawn in the waybill is the Doric column right down the middle. It's not Spanish in design, it is Greek, whereas most LUE quote-unquote hunters believe the waybill is Spanish in origin. The Doric column is Greek. Now that rules out any Spanish origin. Where do we see Doric columns? In the $5 bill and the Lincoln Memorial. I'll be honest, when I first saw the LUE waybill, I believed it was a layout of the National Mall in Washington, D.C., with directions to the U.S. Treasury building described as a quote-unquote natural Fort Knox. What is more huge and treasured than the U.S. Treasury, where they can print money? I also noted masonry. The masonry showed on the LUE, and also the masonry at the Lincoln Memorial. Did you get that? Masonry, or Masons, or Masons were involved. Look at the work on the LUE waybill, which matched work on the Lincoln Memorial. Also, note the steps leading to the top of the Lincoln Memorial. Are they the steps drawn on the LUE waybill? So what does that mean? Initially, I believe the LUE is simply a draft table drawing of various vantage points of the Lincoln Memorial as a starting point and the Washington Mall, with directions to the U.S. Treasury building. Note the resemblance between the football and eye-shaped figure in the LUE, which some believe is the all-seeing eye, and the aerial view of the Washington Monument. As you can see, the Washington Monument has a circle and a bigger circle, and in the middle they have the tip, which is closely associated with the same drawing here. And now look as well where the intersecting circles form an eye shape here and here, much like the football shaped object on the LUE. Okay, so I thought basically what we're looking at is a map that leads to the Treasury. But my opinion changed over time as I did more research. Now, the U.S. Treasury building in Washington has iconic columns in front, with the curls at the top of the columns. But the building's facade has the squared Doric columns and matching 5-layer stone masonry work, as shown in the LUE map. Does Karl Von Mueller's term a natural Fort Knox refer to the U.S. Treasury? And the LUE leads to this building. and the LUE was simply a misunderstood hoax, it never had anything to do with Spanish gold? I thought it was possible at first, but further research dispelled that speculation. One thing's for certain. Simple research indicates that if the $1 and $5 bills were used as templates to draw and decipher the LUE waybill, the LUE was drawn after 1929, when the familiar $5 bill went into circulation, and after 1935, when the Great Seal and Eye of Providence atop the pyramid were added to the reverse of the $1 bill. More proof, as you'll see, that the LUE has nothing to do with Spanish conquistadors like Coronado or Jesuit buried treasure, as most LUE researchers believe, mostly based on the writings of Karl Von Mueller. Beyond that, Coronado traveled northeast through Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, as shown by the red line, though Alvarado traveled north from Tiguex, north, I think that's the way to pronounce it, as far north to Taos. Now that's contrary to Karl Von Mueller's claim that he found a LUE cache near Black Lake, New Mexico, which was Spanish in origin, as described in Tom Hilton's article. Obviously, Karl Von Mueller sent Tom Hilton snipe hunting near Black Lake, believing the LUE was 40 acres of gold, buried no deeper than a foot. Also bear in mind, Taos is not really that far from Black Lake, but there's a large mountain range there that I believe prohibited Alvarado from making that trek over the mountains. All Alvarado found were buffalo, if you read his writings. So I do not believe that the LUE is associated with any Spanish gold, which Karl Von Mueller wrote about extensively in his findings at Black Lake. And as depicted in Eugene Shortridge's illustration with Tom Hilton's article in the January 1970 issue of True Treasure, many in Coronado's party died of thirst and hunger on the high plains of Kansas, chasing Quivara and Indian lore, but they never found one speck of gold. To clarify, the LUE has nothing to do with Spanish or Jesuit hidden and buried gold, regardless what Karl Von Mueller and others claim. There is nothing on the LUE waybill which can identify it as Spanish in origin. Most markedly is the Greek Doric column in the middle, right in the middle of the waybill. With that aside, let's revisit and re-examine the Doric column. There are 11 vertical lines with 3 horizontal lines, 1 at the top and 2 at the bottom. 11 verticals plus 3 horizontals equals 14, juxtaposed, horizontal to vertical. If you closely examine the Lincoln Memorial on the $5 bill, or on the billing itself, you'll see 12 Doric columns. You can see the state names. The 11th state on the lower row is New York. Okay, so 11 vertical lines can be attributed to New York. The 14th state on the top row is Colorado. The number of vertical and horizontal lines in the columns on the LUE do not match the number of lines visible in either the $5 bill nor the actual Lincoln Memorial. One must then assume that the number of vertical and horizontal lines drawn on the LUE on the pillar or the Doric column is intentional and used as an identifier and a measuring tool. Next, here's an annotated snapshot created using Google Earth with the right half of the LUE waybill. If you face the Lincoln Memorial, you are facing west. The arrowhead is pointing north. That implies the commonly understood and used perspective when looking at the LUE is 90 degrees out of phase. The correct orientation is the arrowhead pointing north, with the Doric column aligned from west to east, along with the sun. I don't believe Karl Von Mueller misoriented LUE hunters intentionally. I believe there are 2 possibilities. 1. The person who allowed Karl Von Mueller and Hard Rock Hammond to copy it believed the landscape perspective was the proper orientation when they were shown the map. Or number 2, it's just easier to write the caption in the landscape perspective. So then, This is the proper directional orientation for the LUE with north at the top and west on the left. However, both orientations, portrait and landscape, are used to decipher the LUE based on the location and which direction you're looking at or facing. Also, the element that looks like the sun is oriented to the southwest in the lower left quadrant and operates as a map compass. The compass is the key to a map. Now, it only operates on the right side, rotating from north to east to south on the waybill. Okay, so next, let's identify and decipher specific measurements on the LUE when oriented properly. The LUE appears to be drawn by two people, the person consigned to deliver the gold and the person on the site whom accepted the shipments and also supervised measuring the location and adding those elements to the waybill. Again, one set of measurements showing the route and the other set of measurements describing the topology and cache location sites on that location or at that location. Some measurements appear to be attributed to more than one aspect of the project, and some overlap. And yes, it's true, it looks like it was an extravagant project requiring engineers and a team of workers, etc. It looks very extravagant. So, the first thing to look at is, when oriented properly, is the upper right corner, which is the lower right corner when rotated 90 degrees. So the first thing you'll see is the number 144 or 144. Okay, so that 144 is then the distance. And the small little triangle is pointing, it's cut into three pieces, so it says use those three numbers, 144. It also describes saying travel in a straight line 144 miles. Now the sun is used as the compass, as shown here, and it points in a specific direction, as pointed here. If you look at the LUE, you don't see a contiguous line because it's covered up by the football-shaped object. That is an overlay on the map describing the site, not the direction or the route to get there. So if you follow this line, it leads you to the point. So I've seen other researchers say that 3 is 6 times 3 or 18 square miles the LUE can be located. That is not true. What I will show you is what these two components state is travel in a straight line 144 miles with this heading to this location. Now, the name of that point or that arrowhead is an actual location name that I've discovered. Now, it says also 0.63. 0.63 is the length of the runway at this location that I discovered, where the gold was delivered. So bear in mind, the sun is used also as the point of origin, like a waybill, and it's also acting as a compass. It is also orienting the user to know which way is west and which way is north to get their bearings straight. Now, the other unique aspect that I've mentioned also is not only is 144 attributed to the distance traveling a straight line from the origin to this location, but it's also the heading when a person flying the cache by airplane, I believe a Ford Tri-Motor, is heading when they are coming on the runway strip to deliver the gold, as I'll show you in an additional part to this series. So, number one, here's the direction using the sun, which is actually a compass, or the key to the map, to this specific location, traveling north, 144 miles. Now, the little subset you see here, the little triangle, is used for another measurement, which I'll touch on later in the next part of this series, the LUE Waybill Solved. I hope you enjoyed it, and in the next part as well. Bye for now.